is Newsroom. Hello and welcome once again from Johannesburg here in South Africa. I'm Evan Jansen. This show is always live. It's broadcast from our studios in Auckland Park. Don't forget, we're also streaming live on YouTube right now, where the whole show is always available on demand on our YouTube channel. Now today, we're at Kliptown in Soweto, where the Freedom Charter was adopted 60 years ago on this very day. Then we look at the relationship between sleep and productivity here in South Africa. It's an update on sports. We'll speak to psychologist Julian Dillahunt over what's been and what to look forward to the weekend. And we close with the ballet Spartacus that's set for theatres in Cape Town. But first, let's get the day's news. The Parliament Commission of Inquiry into the Marikana shootings has recommended an inquiry into the fitness of Police Commissioner Ria Piyecha to hold office. During the release of the report last night, President Jacob Zuma said he had written to Piyecha to inform her of these recommendations. The President reportedly offered to redeploy Piyecha a few months ago, but she refused. 34 miners were killed in the 2012 shooting.
Breadwinners were taken away from their families in a brutal manner, and untold pain and suffering befell the families and relatives. We should, as a nation, learn from this painful episode.
Two South African youths taken from their grandmother's home in Mpumalanga a year ago and trafficked to Malawi have arrived home. The siblings are believed to have been abducted by a woman who promised them a better education in the United Kingdom. The Department of Social Development, with assistance from Interpol, brought the 14-year-old boy and the 20-year-old girl back to South Africa. Today marks 60 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter. The 10-clause document was adopted in Kliptown in Soweto in 1955, where celebrations will be taking place today. The Freedom Charter forms the basis of the country's constitution, where equality and race as well as language were directly addressed. The ANC says it has fully implemented 8 of the 10 clauses of the Freedom Charter, with the last 2 that involve land and wealth still remaining a work in progress. Eskom has announced that a third suspended Eskom executive will resign. The power utility said that it and Finance Director Tsolofele Molefe have agreed to part ways on an amicable basis. In March, Eskom's former chairperson, Zola Tsotsi, placed 4 senior executives, including former CEO Tsidiso Matona, on suspension when he announced an inquiry into the utility. Technology and commercial head Matsela Koko remains on suspension, while executive Dan Marakani resigned on the 1st of June. More than 1,100 people have died from the heat wave that has hit the Sindh capital Karachi in Pakistan. Heat-stroke victims are being wheeled into overcrowded health facilities daily. Doctors and nurses are doing what they can, but supplies are limited, and the government-run hospitals are relying on volunteers for even the most basic necessities, such as water and spare beds. And sprinter Usain Bolt has been removed from a list of competitors for the 100-meter event at the Jamaica Championships, which has been seen as the latest setback for the world record holder. The 6-time Olympic gold medalist was due to compete in the 100-meter event in Kingston to sharpen his form against top athletes such as Johan Blake and Asafa Powell. The Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association officials did not elaborate why Bolt's name was withdrawn from the event, which is scheduled for today. But despite Bolt being withdrawn, he's been assured of a spot in the World Championships in Beijing to defend his 100 and 200-meter titles. Of course, you can get all the updates on our Newsroom Facebook page. You can send us your comments on Twitter at SABC Newsroom. Now, on to the business of today. Today marks the 60th anniversary of the adoption of the Freedom Charter in Soweto's oldest residential area, Kliptown. The Congress of the People in 1955, dubbed as one of the most representative gatherings in South Africa's history then, adopted the document as a vision for a united, non-racial and democratic South Africa. The Charter became a symbol enshrining the hopes and aspirations of all progressive South Africans. The document forms the basis of the country's constitution today, where equality, race and language were directly addressed. Now, our contributing editor, Vuyo Mvoko, is in Kliptown, where the celebrations will take place today. A very good morning to you, Vuyo. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks very much, Eben.
Vuyo, just give us a quick brief on the festivities today. It's a massive day for South Africa, isn't it?
Well, it is indeed. It's that time of the year when leaders from across the political divide, but also from other spheres of our life, including business, including organized labor, where they get to reflect on progress that has or hasn't been made over the years. I mean, 21 years into our democracy, how have we performed relative to the core list of demands that are contained in the Freedom Charter? Now, I don't think it's rocket science, really. I mean, there shall be work and security. We have a huge unemployment problem, which is nowhere near being addressed. Also, I mean, there's questions of the land. I mean, land shall be shared among those who work it. But if you look at the stats, you're talking in the region of over 70% of the land being owned by whites in this country, and really 20-odd% being owned by black people, and largely, or by and large, you're talking really communal land. So in certain respects, I think we are doing fairly well, but in fundamental ways in relation to jobs and in relation to the question of the land, we, I think, very, very far from the ideal. Yeben?
Vuyo, you're in Kliptown today with the oldest part of Soweto, really, where this historic event happened. Tell us about Kliptown a little bit. The people living there today, has their lives changed?
Their lives have changed. Their lives haven't changed. If you look around here, there is this huge precinct that was built to accommodate small businesses, everyone from hawkers and formal traders right through to really small businesses, but fairly significant small businesses. I mean, there's a hotel around here. So there is a development that really signifies change. But if you go to the other side of the very same precinct, you actually see abject poverty, squalor, and that's where you see poor people who are really battling to make ends meet. So you get, as is the case, I suppose, in the rest of the country, you get the best of both worlds.
Well, yeah, let's talk about the Freedom Charter quickly, and the ANC says that they've implemented 8 out of the 10 principles of the Freedom Charter. How do you view that, and what are the challenges in your mind that remains?
I don't think one can deny the fact that a lot of progress has been made over the past 21 years. The question, though, is whether we have done as best as we could. Have we done everything that we could do given the resources that we have, the time that we've had, but also, of course, the challenges, the nature of the challenges that we've had? I think a fair answer to that would be, yes, we have done a lot, but the phrase, a lot more can still be done. But I think we need to go beyond that. We need to be able to say now what was done over the past 21 years was indeed what anyone could reasonably do with the resources at their disposal and the time they have had to do so. But I doubt whether, in fact, what we've been able to do is the best that we could do given everything. So in areas like unemployment, I think there's a lot that we could have done and that we haven't done. On the land question, by the ruling party's own admission, it's something that we haven't really achieved, as certainly not as much as they would have wanted. But also on the question of economic empowerment among black people in particular, particular. Remember when the president of the ANC, when he made that January 8th statement in Cape Town early this year, said this was the year of the Freedom Charter, but it was also the year of radical economic transformation. Has that happened? It hasn't happened at all, and they do acknowledge that. The question then is whether on a day like this, they will be able to reflect soberly and be able to take stock, but perhaps more importantly, come out with a program of action that will address those inadequacies that they themselves have already identified.
Vuyo, before I let you go, just tell us how matters will proceed today, who will be attending, and how will things pan out?
Well, it's the political elite, that goes without saying, but they have invited political parties across the political divide, but also Labour and, of course, representatives of civil society. That includes, churches, organs of civil society, and so on, and, of course, the community in and around Kliptown.
Vuyo, thank you for that update today. Of course, we'll bring you all the festivities right here on this very channel throughout the day. That's our contributing editor, Vuyo Mvoko. He's in Kliptown in Soweto, where, of course, to recap for you quickly, today marks 60 years since the adoption of the Freedom Charter. The 10-clause document was adopted in Kliptown, Soweto in 1955, on this day where celebrations will take place. The anniversary comes as the ANC declared 2015 the year of the Freedom Charter.
60 years ago, about 3,000 people from different political organizations and different races met at this spot. The convention was called the Congress of the People. On the 26th of June that same year, they adopted the Freedom Charter. And since then, it's clear that a lot has changed in this area. It looks like a mini economic hub. You have a big business like the Soweto Hotel, which attracts dignitaries like the Prince of Wales. And on the same block, low-key entrepreneurs. But as some say, the more things seem to change, the more they stay the same.
Me, I'm old man turning 60 years in Kliptown. And since I'm here in Kliptown, for those 60 years, about 55 years I was living with buckets in the toilets. And now, about 5 years now, they changed the toilets, give us these green toilets.
Our parents were born in Kliptown. They are going to die at any moment. Does the government think about us? Nothing has changed.
While there's this criticism leveled against the ANC-led government, the party insists that it's been able to implement the Freedom Charter except for 2 of the 10 clauses. The first one being that the wealth of the country shall be shared by the people. This includes the mineral wealth as well as banks. The other contentious clause being that the land shall be shared by the people. And this is a clause that has informed the EFF's policy on land invasion, while 2015 has proven to be a year of introspection.
The National Executive Committee of the ANC declares 2015 the year of the Freedom Charter and unity in action to advance economic freedom.
This is where President Jacob Zuma is expected to spell out exactly how the ANC-led government will implement the Freedom Charter in its entirety. Aldrin Simpier, SABC News, Kliptown.
Now, yes, on this day, the Freedom Charter was adopted in 1955, and through it, the Congress movement assumed a fully non-racial character, making it broadly representative of the entire South African population. Let's take a look at what you're saying around this on social media. Nzukulu says all people shall have equal rights to use their own languages and to develop their own folk culture and customs. Freedom, Freedom Charter. ANC Info Feed says on this day, 26 June 1955, 3,000 delegates met Congress of the People in Kliptown, where the Freedom Charter was adopted. The Minister of Sport, Minister Razmataz, good morning to you too, sir. Everyone, on this historic 26 June Freedom Charter Day, the people shall govern. Yes, indeed. Maibu, yeah, Africa. If we had been faithful to ideals of the Freedom Charter, there would have been no Marikana. Hindsight is a perfect science, Eleanor, isn't it? Lionel Moleko says the people shall govern. Freedom Charter, that is the principle. And Pablo Escobar Amos says the Freedom Charter doesn't belong to the ruling party, but it must uphold it and serve the nation and not its members. And the ruling party is doing just that. Now, we move on. The executive mayor of Mangaung Metropolitan Council, Councillor Thabo Manyoni, tabled a total budget of just over 7 billion rand for the 2015-16 financial year at a special council meeting in Bloemfontein last night. Chaos then erupted in the House after the executive mayor tabled the city's budget vote. Opposition party members accused the council speaker, Molisi Sionzana, of being biased and soft on ANC members. This, however, happened after Mayor Thabo Manyoni tabled the 2015-16 budget vote. Now, Councillor Thabo Manyoni joins us from our studios in Bloemfontein this morning. A very good morning to you, Honourable Mayor. Thank you for joining us.
A very good morning to you, sir, and also to your viewers and listeners.
Mr. Mayor, before we talk money, I just want to get your reaction on the goings-on after your speech yesterday. What's your reaction to that?
No. It was basically democracy at action. It was quite exciting.
Democracy in action. No one's rights were infringed upon. Is that what you're saying? As long as no one's rights are infringed upon.
Absolutely. Actually, I enjoyed it, I must say. You know, you need always to have some tussles and exchange of words, as long as it's a healthy debate on matters. But I must indicate that generally speaking, I think Mangaung citizens, including also the opposition party, they basically are happy, you know. That's the word I can use. They were telling me that, look, we don't have a problem with the budget, we only have a problem with the speaker.
It seems the case even in the National Assembly at the moment, Mr. Mayor. Wanted to ask you quickly to tell me about your priorities in your budget. What are you looking to prioritize in 2015-16 financial year?
Let me first indicate that there are worrisome areas, particularly when it comes to the economic front. When I leave the studio, I will be rushing quickly. I'm meeting young people, about 3,000 of them. I'm launching a youth economic development program, wherein the municipality has reinvested 40 million rands to make sure that we turn these young people into entrepreneurs. We'll be training them with the local banks and making sure that we get them into training, leadership, and also making sure that they can also access funding in terms of becoming entrepreneurs in the area. That will be a program that will take for 3 years. Every year we will be allocating more than 40 million rands for this particular program. And another worrisome trend is the issue of dignity for our people, particularly in the area called Botshabelo. You remember, it is one of those areas where people were resisting incorporation into the former homeland of Kwakwa, and they didn't get much when it comes to sanitation. We have a program there of eradicating VIPs and bucket system. In this financial year, we are going to spend almost 730 million rands. We have appointed 10 contractors to deal with this program. It's a program that we committed to deal with until we don't have buckets and VIPs in that area. In the country, it is the area where we have a high concentration of bucket system and VIPs, that is Botshabelo and Tabancho. We also have scarcity of water in Mangaung. You know, we are inland and so forth. We are starting with a program of building a pipeline right from Harip Dam, supplying directly to the municipality here. And of course, it will assist other municipalities where it will be passing. In this financial year, we have budgeted 31 million rands to do detailed designs and the necessary work to start with that program. It will be a pipeline that will cost almost 4 billion rands when it's completed. It's a program that will be running with national government. So those are the main areas that we'll be looking into. And of course, the issue of making sure that we've got provision of clean water. We also have energy. We will be spending more than 900 million rands to refurbish our infrastructure on electricity, you know, refurbishing your old transformers and so forth in our area. As I'm talking to you now, we had a problem with one of the biggest transformers in Botshabelo blowing up and actually affecting almost 90% of our area there. We are busy working on that. So we will be replacing some of those old transformers in our area.
Now, next year, Mr. Mayor, it's an election year.
I must indicate here, in this day where we celebrate the Freedom Charter Day, I've got good news for South Africans that Mangaung ultimately has been given by the Moody's rating an A3 rating. So we will, by August, going out to the market to make sure that we get more funding. South Africans will be investing in the infrastructure in our municipality to make sure that we fast-track development and make sure that we also have capital investment in this city. It is the only city in the Free State where we will be going onto the market to get funding to accelerate infrastructure development.
Mr. Mayor, you've got 1 minute left to tell me about your preparations for the municipal elections next year. What's your message to the people?
I can only say, Hak Free State, we all are ready. And let me indicate to the viewers and the listeners that here in Mangaung, we've got a stable city, and I think it will be democracy in action. We will be happy to have all parties to come and participate. But I know that the ruling party has been focused here and led by me as the deployee of Mangaung to make sure that at least we serve the needs of South Africans, particularly in our area. And I'm looking forward to local government elections to say, forward we are going, backward never. We will meet the vision of our forebearers, our forefathers in Kliptown, and make sure that we really make a South Africa that South Africans can be proud of, a dignified South Africa, a South Africa that we all can say, yes, we belong, an inclusive country. I will definitely be looking forward to our forthcoming local government elections.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for joining us. That's the Mayor of the City of Roses, coming from a Bloemfontein studio. That is Executive Mayor Thabo Manyoni talking about, well, budget meetings last night was a little bit hectic. He says it wasn't a problem. Let's now move on and take a look at our pick of the day. Now, of course, it comes from the National Heritage Council of South Africa, and it takes us back. It's captioned, #Freedom Charter was officially adopted on 25 and 26 June 1955 at the Congress of the People in Kliptown. #SA Heritage. A beautiful picture there, taking us back in time. Don't forget, on this very channel, we'll carry all the celebrations throughout the day. You can also pop in periodically if you just want to get a little update at the top of each hour. Let's now take a look at the front pages from around the globe. We start in China. The South China Morning Post reports that a man, 44 years old, identified only by his surname King, who entered the mainland in May via Hong Kong, was discharged from Guangdong Hospital after being successfully treated for MERS, treatment that reportedly cost 10 million Hong Kong dollars. Then in New York, the New York International Times reports that the Supreme Court ruled yesterday that President Obama healthcare laws allows the federal government to provide nationwide tax subsidies to help poor and middle-class people buy health insurance. And finally, in the United Kingdom, the Telegraph says the BBC Trust will be axed and its powers handed to the communications regulator, Ofcom. This would mean the BBC being governed by an external body for the first time in its 92-year history. Let's take a look at what's happening around the country in South Africa today. We start in Johannesburg with the driver of the vehicle that collided with a car of toppling presenter Simba Mere is expected to appear in the Randburg's Magistrates Court. The accused, Preshila Naidu, has been charged with both reckless driving and culpable homicide after Mere and his passenger, Katie Shea O'Brien, died on the scene of the accident. In Cape Town, where judgment in application for leave to appeal by gang boss George Gewalt Thomas and 15 of his accomplices is expected to be heard in the High Court. Thomas is serving 7 life terms for murder. Time for us to take a break. This is Newsroom here on SABC News.
Oh, hi. Just brushing up on my party. We are going to make it number 12. Official. Let me teach you a quick word.
Yeah.
Quite a star. A woman who has mastered the art of dancing in high heels. It's up and
Warm up the dance floor with a bottle of Sedgwick's original Old Brown for only $24.99 and help make party South Africa's 12th official language. Tops at Spa. Shake things up.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Have you even thought that sleeping could be related to productivity? Latest World Competitives Yearbook 2015 rates South Africa's life expectancy last at 61. The resultant loss in productivity might be exacerbated by what we call presenteeism, which is a practice of going to work despite being fatigued, ill, injured, or even anxious, often resulting in reduced productivity. Do you sometimes, as a worker, feel tired or not focused? Do you find it hard to concentrate on your task? This could be because of inadequate or lack of sleep. Now, one cannot overemphasize the importance of sleep, for it helps us to recover, heal, and re-energize. However, human beings not always get the sleep that we need. To talk to us on the relationship between sleep and productivity, we are joined by the Chief Executive Officer of Productivity South Africa, Mr. Bongani Qoka. Very good morning to you, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, and thanks for having me on your show.
Interesting concept. I like this. Tell us about the link between sleep and productivity in South Africa. What does your research show?
Yes, there's a good link between proper sleeping and productivity. So if you sleep well and you come to work, you are able to concentrate much better, so more can get done. And if you have had good sleep, then it doesn't have a negative effect on your health, on your mood, and on your ability to interact with your colleagues.
How much sleep is enough for an individual to be productive?
Well, sleep depends on your age. It depends on health factors, sleep deprivation in the previous few days, as well as your age. But the average worker needs about 7 to 8 hours. But it's more about the quality than the quantity.
Why then is it that people don't get enough sleep? Is it the case here, or is that a worldwide, continental even phenomenon?
It's a worldwide phenomenon, especially as a result of technology that is invading our space. But basically, the medical effect of not being able to sleep well is during the day you may secrete a lot of adrenaline, which may make it difficult for you to switch off and be able to sleep. And therefore, the following day, you'll come to work still feeling very tired.
That brings me to the next question. You know, when we talk sleep and we talk productivity and difficulty falling asleep, often we get medicated these days to sleep. Sleeping pills are big business, not just here, but around the world. How does sleeping pills tie into this phenomenon? Surely it can't make it better. It must make it worse.
It cannot, because you're using drug to fix a problem. You can use it as a short-term measure, but pills have side effects. So if you are taking medication, there is a likelihood that if, for an instance, you are having challenges like diabetes, it can worsen it. And also if you have people that are having asthmatic problem. So taking sleeping tablets may slow your heart rate and then resulting in the breathing problems being exacerbated. So let's look at other options other than using the pills to fix the problem.
The one thing that I like that comes out of here, you talk about a concept called presenteeism as opposed to absenteeism. Talk me through the concept of presenteeism and how does it play out in the workplace today?
Presenteeism is a concept that talks to being at work physically, but with the results not coming. It could be as a result that you're not feeling well or you are fatigued or you have anxiety. So you are there providing input, but productivity is about output. So you don't get much done, but you are present.
What does an employer do? To me, if I had a business today, I would think about incorporating a 20-minute or half-an-hour nap period within the workday. How do you view that?
Well, it's something that's not only been done in countries like Switzerland, but we see American, we see Chinese doing. So if you get a nap in the afternoon, you are able to improve the alertness and the level of productivity that you had in the morning. So you are investing more on your productivity by just taking that break. You come back more alert, your cognitive ability has improved, and you are able to even engage much better with your colleagues.
Now, what about other activities within the workplace? Things like night shift, extra hours, long hours, longer work days. How does that affect productivity and workers' performance in general?
Let's start with the night shift. The challenge with that is that if at all you are on a night shift, it disturbs your sleeping pattern. So when you sleep, even if you get the quantity, you then don't get the quality of sleep. So you come back still fatigued. So the resultant negative effects of that is that you may be less alert, you are more accident prone, you are more mistake prone, which has a negative effect on productivity. And talking about overtime, there's a study by University of Texas that suggests that if you work for up to 19 hours without taking break, you are as bad as somebody who is officially drunk. Wow. So we need to be very cautious about putting more hours. Again, it talks to productivity. That productivity is about how much you get done, not the number of hours you spend working.
It's about effectiveness in the workplace. Yes. In conclusion, everyone's battling today. We all feel like we're suffering a little bit, I suppose, in this life. You know, what's your advice to someone who feels that maybe they're not getting enough sleep, maybe they need more sleep, maybe they want to have a little nap in the workplace, or maybe they're not as effective as they feel they should be? What's your advice to them, and where can they go?
Yeah, there are a few advice that you can start by doing before going for medical attention. You can look at praying more, you can look at meditating, you can look at improving your health habits, you can look at exercising, and if all else fail, then consult a therapist. And as indicated earlier on, I would not recommend going for pills, but look at the source of the problems and address the problem from the source.
That's right. Sleep deprivation, if you're not sleeping properly, it really affects the workplace. There you see what happens when you suffer from a lack of sleep on screen now. It even impairs your immune system. There's a risk of diabetes, growth suppression, obesity. All these scenarios play out because sleep is the most important thing that we'll do as human beings. I thank you for joining us. The Chief Executive Officer of Productivity South Africa, Mr. Bongani Toka. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Well, yesterday, President Jacob Zuma released the Marikana report, which exempted the Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa from being the cause of this tragedy. Now, this is what some of you had to say about this on social media, at SABC Newsroom, of course. Jay Naidu says, what South Africa expects is justice for the victims. It's time to heal the wounds of this terrible stain on our democracy. Kulileko says, this Marikana report does not give justice to those who lost their lives and their families. All it's done is protect the executive. Begazela says, it's not looking good for Pieta. Perhaps that police commissioner role is cursed, he says. Joey Hassan says, social conditions of desperation and poverty produce violence at Marikana. Yet, Lonman fails to honor basic housing agreement for workers. That is Joey Hassan's view of how matters proceeded. What came up? Well, what happened on that tragic day back in 2012. Now let's take a look at what's happening on Newsroom Facebook page. Today, the ANC and its alliance partners are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the Freedom Charter. The Freedom Charter was first created shortly after the Defiance Campaign of 1952. Then also Mozambique is celebrating 40 years of independence. Today is the first time that the Southern African country is celebrating its independence under the leadership of President Filipe Nyusi. who was inaugurated in January of this year. And Islamic State fighters launched simultaneous attacks against the Syrian government and Kurdish militia, overnight moving back onto the offensive after losing ground in recent days to Kurdish-led forces near the capital of their caliphate. More news and other updates. You can find all of that, of course, on that very page you see there on screen, or you can go to sabc.co.za/news for all the latest updates. Now, you can't end a week without talking about sport, can you? We are joined this morning by ITI senior partner Julian Delahunt, a man who knows all about the things that goes on in the heads of sporting champions. Good morning, Julian. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, Eben, and thanks.
Always nice to have you with us.
Yeah, thanks.
You're going to join us pretty much every week from now on in, but yeah. I wanted to go back. You know, there's lots been reported. There's a lot of misery here in South Africa about performance within the Super 15 ranks. The Stormers went out with a whimper last week. Your views on it and the mentality of our rugby teams. Is it a little bit different this year in a World Cup year?
Yeah, Eben, I think it is a World Cup year, and that's important to note. But I think a relatively disappointing showing by many of the South African teams particularly. I think what was stand out from an importance and a positive point of view was some of the younger guys who put their hands up, fringe players who really came to the fore, the Jesse Creels and the Fuffs and those type of guys really came to the fore. Unfortunately, the Stormers, we spoke 2 weeks ago, I was on the show and we spoke about the last game going into that Sharks match. Yeah. The Stormers really finished their season on a draw against the Lions, a loss against the Sharks, who were 3 points or 3 positions lower than them on the log at that stage, and then going into a massive playoff game and just coming undone. So sport is all about performance. It's all about momentum. And particularly in these massive tournaments and big tournaments like the Super 15, it's all about well-timed moments of excellence. And unfortunately, the Stormers got it, I think, very wrong. You
talk about the Stormers in particular. A guy that's been assessed this week after leaving the team is Alistair Coetzee, the coach. He's going to the Steelers in Japan. Mm-hmm. What do you make of his tenure? Some people are successful, say, he's topped the conference 3 times. But for a team like the Stormers, it's not good enough, is it?
Well, it's really not. I think, there's 2 sides of it. One aspect is he's been speaking a lot in the media about his transformation policies, and he's done very well in terms of really highlighting transformation. But in terms of performance and winning cups, yes, they've won a couple of Currie Cups, obviously, underneath him. But really, I think he'll be measured in many people's books for a long time on the fact that he never won a Super 15 trophy.
A lot's been made now of the brain drain. We see a lot of our most talented players just going to play overseas. Are we now in the full professional era where there's very little loyalty like we see in football?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we need to put some strategies in place as to what we're going to do to combat that. From a South African point of view, the unfortunate side is the money is internationally. Guys get managed slightly better on a day-to-day and week-to-week basis, so they don't play 80 minutes every single week. And they're being attracted by obviously a stronger currency externally. So yes, it's very much a professional environment. We need to keep our schooling systems strong, and I know there's a lot being done in the schooling system to ensure that we still blood young professionals in the future.
We spend a lot of money there. We don't have to worry. We spent half of our money we spent on rugby in the sporting fraternity. Yeah, anyhow, I wanted to talk quickly about that professionalism you're talking about and how it connects with Bafana Bafana and the lack of availability that we're seeing in our national side. Is that concerning for you, and do we see that happening in the future in rugby?
Well, let's talk Bafana first. I think, yes, it is concerning. I hear many pundits talk about, well, it's not a big tournament and it was only Mauritius and the like. I'm of the opinion, and I think many sports psychologists would be of the opinion, that we need to build momentum. We need to create consistency, create some structures, have similar players arrive for games, understand the coach's views. So for me, you need to create a winning mindset and a winning culture, and you can only do that in a team that remains relatively consistent over time. So for me, Bafana, we've not won as a nation. We've not won any tournament of significance in a long, long time. So any tournament for me is a tournament of significance, and we need to start creating a winning culture regardless of how big or small the team is that we're playing against.
Let's quickly move abroad. It's the transfer window is now open in England, and all of our viewers around Africa, they're very interested in what's happening with the British Premier League, the BPL as it's known. The interesting one that came out yesterday is Sergio Ramos. Sergio Ramos looks like he's on his way to Man United.
Yeah. Well, Manchester United at this stage have been linked with just about every decent player. But yes, Sergio Ramos would be a phenomenal signing for United if they do go that route. Obviously, the transfer window is only just about to open. Many of the clubs have been spending some significant time, especially watching the Copa America with some of the great Colombian and Peruvian and Chilean players coming out. Obviously, Liverpool have made the most signings at this stage. A couple of free transfers, and obviously Firmino, which is a Brazilian playmaker.
When are you guys at Liverpool going to behave like a big club and sign marquee players and stop looking in the bargain basement for free transfers and £12 million players? Isn't it time for Liverpool to understand, after so much suffering for decades and decades now, Julian, it's time to step up and behave like a big club and not look for bargain basement players, but buy top-class players and not sell your best players.
No, that's true. I think in future shows we're going to spend a little bit of time on the psyche of Liverpool as a nation and as a city. But you kind of put me on the spot here, being a Liverpool fan. But so absolutely, I think Liverpool are still waiting for that one big marquee signing. Arsenal have signed Peter Cech, and they're looking at a couple of Porto strikers at the moment. So it's a really impressive time.
I think Arsenal are going to have a big season next season. If with Peter Cech, you know, John Terry said 12 to 15 points is what he'll gain them a season. And if that was this season, they win by a landslide, really. So finally, it's Wimbledon week. We've got South African Kevin Anderson. I'm not always sure if he is South African or if he wants to be South African. What's your view on him? I see Davis Cup participation is now back on the radar. Is that going to happen?
Yeah, I think there's been this ongoing debate whether he plays his participation versus non-participation. I think he's on the brink. I believe if we can get the right sponsorships for him, it's about earning a living and joining the South African Davis Cup team. I think South African tennis fans and youngsters need a hero. We need an AB de Villiers of tennis. We need the old Wayne Ferreiras and the like, but someone who can now start progressing to the likes of a quarterfinal and semi-final of Wimbledon. And Anderson at number 14 in the world, I think it's the highest he's been in his career. I think this is a good time for us to start establishing a bit of this tennis brand. Are you
calling him for the last 4 place at Wimbledon this year?
I'd say a quarterfinal. Quarterfinal would be good, and obviously a last 4 would be phenomenal for Anderson. He was great at the Queen's. He's also been working with sports psychologists for a long time, so he needs to get over the Andy Murray and the big boys.
There's a bit of a hump before you get into the top 10 in the world. I think it's a mental thing in the end. I mean, you know all about that. We'll talk about that in future. Julian, thanks for joining us. That is I2I senior partner, a man who knows all about the psyche of sport at the highest level. Julian Dillahunt. Thanks for joining us, George. Now, we're going to take a short little break. When we come back, we look at Spartacus Ballet that's on in Cape Town.
SABC News seeks to be the biggest, the most extensive and diverse news organisation on the continent. Our mission is to provide accurate and credible news and current affairs programming throughout the day. We are committed to covering every part of the continent. We reflect the world to Africa and Africa to the world. SABC News, Africa's news leader. Now available throughout the continent.
Welcome back. This is Newsroom. Now, following a successful season here in Johannesburg, the ballet production, A Spartacus of Africa, will this week open in Cape Town. But performing is not the only activity that the group will be involved in. Together with Nedbank Arts, about 1,300 school pupils from previously disadvantaged areas will experience this world-class production for free during the final dress rehearsal on Thursday. The pupils will also take part in an up-close and personal workshop with the 100-member dancing cast. Now, joining us from Cape Town in the studio there is a Spartacus of Africa production spokesperson, Robin Taylor. A very good morning to you, Robin. Thank you for joining us. And then we have the
Thank
senior...
you so much. Good morning from Cape Town.
And then we have the Senior Communications Manager for Nedbank, and Nkosinathi always joins us with these wonderful, these wonderful programs that you put forward. And Nkosinathi, just tell us quickly your thinking as Nedbank around this production and then the children.
So Nedbank starts from a premise that we are highly involved in the communities we serve. We cannot be a successful business if our communities are not successful. We know that the arts contributes immensely to the growth of our country, to preserving our heritage and culture. So with this production, we saw it as a perfect fit because they came to us looking for funding, and we saw an element where they are involving children, for example. They're involving women in terms of women empowerment and skills transfer. We saw those elements and we said education is a key pillar, skills development is a key pillar, and certainly it made sense for Nedbank to then partner through the Arts Affinity.
Robin, you're the spokesperson for the ballet. Tell us a little bit about the production, the idea of gladiators at war. How does it all tap into the performance?
Well, it's a totally transformed Spartacus, as one has never seen it before, because it's called the Spartacus of Africa, which is very relevant to our own beautiful South Africa. Choreographer Veronica Paper has reworked her ballet, and it's set in a mythical African setting, which is quite familiar for the audiences in South Africa. And instead of gladiators, we have warriors, tribes of warriors.
Nkosinathi, the kids are going to be involved and going to be introduced to something completely new. Who are the marquee names that are going to assist them, that are going to show them the ropes, as it were?
So I think, the production of Spartacus is a huge one. Robin is best placed to give you some of those names, but they've got international people who have received accolades. For example, the choreographer Robin Hoskins is one of them. And I think just the different players in this production are internationally renowned, and certainly will be giving these guys some room for them to grow.
Robin, you threw the ball there in your court a little bit. Who are the marquee names that are going to be there? And tell us, Johannesburg was a big success. Is your expectation the same in Cape Town?
Johannesburg was a fabulous success. It was the icebreaker for the production, so we were a little bit nervous, but it went fantastically. And Cape Town is looking incredibly successful before we've even opened. The names involved of kind of mentorship opportunities is we have Andile Ndlovu, who's our own South African ballet dancer, who's come back from Washington Ballet to perform one of the lead roles, and he's already assisting many of our young cast members, rehearsing backstage and really offering a professional helping hand. On another level, we have Paul Hoskins, who's the conductor we've brought from the United Kingdom, who's been mentoring young South African conductor Brandon Williams, who has already conducted one of the performances in Cape Town and will be doing a few more along the way. So the mentorship opportunity is huge with the production. And then as well as exposing this production to these brand new audiences, as we spoke earlier of from all across the Western Cape, formerly disadvantaged areas, some students who have never been foot in a theatre.
Nkosinathi, you guys at Nedbank, you're always involved in the arts, you're really pushing it. Are you going to move into other spheres with this?
So Nedbank has what we call the affinity programs. So we look after sports affinity, children's affinity, arts affinity, and the environment as well. So holistically, we're looking after our communities, and certainly we try to make sure that in all the things that we do, there's skills transfer, there's education, and there's sustainability in all our programs.
Well, guys, thank you for joining us. Robin Taylor in Cape Town, thanks for joining us. And then I've got Nkosinathi Mziza from Nedbank joining us here in Cape Town. We're talking about a Spartacus of Africa. Well, it will open this week in Cape Town. It should be a cracking show. Now, time for us to wrap it. The heat wave in Pakistan that started over the weekend is reported to have now claimed more than 1,000 lives. The temperatures are said to have been as high as 45+ degrees in Karachi. Here are some of your comments on that. Thousands dead in Pakistan through the heat wave. 1,000 dead in the UK through the cold, says Keith. Next week, heat wave is cancelled. Prepare for rain because I said, says John James. Got to admire the commitment of smokers. Come hell or rain, cold wind or heat wave, they'll find a way to have a smoke. Shopping over the weekend. Get some sun cream in for next week's heat wave. And in a recent heat wave in Karachi, Pakistan has caused a death toll. It's now 1,100. The number of deaths or those admitted in hospitals are rising day by day. Well, that's where we have to wrap it today. Newsroom broadcast live from our studios in Auckland Park every weekday morning between 9 and 10 a.m. We also stream live on YouTube at that time, with the show available on demand on our YouTube channel. This is SABC News. You've been watching Newsroom. We love it in the morning.